Today we have an awesome guest. His name is Jackson Hightower. He works at the intersection of biological optimization, behavioral mastery, and human performance. After 20 plus years building expertise across martial arts, clinical diagnostics, sexual health, peptide therapy, and personal development, his approach is built on a single premise. Most high performing men are operating at a fraction of their biological and psychological potential, not from lack of effort, but from lack of data and direction. Jackson, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Naeem. Great to be here, man.
I'm happy to have you on, man. It's been a long time coming. I've appreciated your friendship for many, many years now, and I've learned so much from you about what you do. So I'm excited to share it with everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
likewise.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So why don't we start off with I'm gonna kick it off with my question for you about what's your definition of a peak human?
Oh, wow. Peak human.
We're going deep right away.
No, I love it. I love it. Peak human. I mean, look, I think someone who is in alignment with their truth, right? And whatever it is that they're here to do, whatever it is that their like special skill set is, I think everyone has a unique skill set. And they're varied and they're wide, right? And everyone has their own little gift. Someone who is in alignment with that, I find to be in sort of peak state. When I hear peak human, I hear flow state,
Mm,
like operating at the highest levels. Someone who's mind, body, and spirit, they're working on all of that, right? And they're in sort of like that nice synergy. That's what I feel and what I intuit when I hear you say, what is a peak human? Doesn't mean that they have it all figured out. Doesn't mean that they're perfect. It doesn't mean, but it just means that they're aligned like really, really clearly with their directive purpose in this life.
I love that, man. I agree 100%. So you came up through martial arts. You started doing martial arts when you were like 4 years old, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, four.
That's amazing. So I think you're a black belt and you're able to do like splits and all that amazing stuff.
I was.
How did that shape your framework for male mastery?
Number one, there's a tremendous amount of discipline that you need when you do martial arts, especially at a young age. I started when I was four and I did it for like, I think 12 or 13 years, ended up at third degree black belt and I was doing Taekwondo. And there's when you're a kid, right? Like there's a sensei, there's an instructor. Like you need to know the forms, you need to pay attention and be disciplined. A lot of the young kids that do that, they don't necessarily have the ability to like, okay, we're in class right now, and like we're going to focus and hone in. So discipline, respect. I think for elders, but also like, the body and the awareness of the body. And it also trains your physicality in a way that not a lot of other things do. It just gets your body in a state where it's like you can handle heavy, amounts of pressure and stress over the years. So it kind of builds that model. But I would say it was a lot of mental respect, the psychological piece of being able to compete, being able to spar, learning the forms at a young age, and taking pride in something that was really physical and a mental approach at a young age.
I love that, man. I love the respect factor. I love taking pride, having the discipline, and I see it reflected in you as through our relationship, right? You still exhibit all those qualities. I'm sure it must have been not that fun as a kid, but that's pretty cool. You stuck through it.
It was 3 hours a day you're training, and so I
Yeah,
became the youngest black belt in Massachusetts state history, I think at the time when I was 7.5.
damn.
But like, you train a lot, three hours a day for 4 years, 4.5 years. That's a lot of work for a young kid. So I think I have the discipline gene, but then also I was like really committed to wanting to be the best in that. And then it carries in through your whole life. Once you build discipline, once you build those foundational skills, you have them. They're with you,
Mm,
you know.
yep, 100%. Once you build those patterns in your nervous system, especially at such a young age, right? It's like muscle memory. It's just it goes deep. That's awesome. And then I'm sure you actually teach a lot of this, and it's great because again, masters, they don't. A lot of people out there, they're teaching these things from an intellectual concept, but they actually don't embody them themselves. So it's really amazing. You obviously embody that, and I'm sure in your Ever Vital program where you coach your men and you teach your men, these are some of the pillars as well that you help people with. Yes.
Yeah. It's a holistic approach, right? So I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not just a coach or a teacher. Like I actually have a really unique skill set. Martial
Mhm.
arts, erotic arts training for 15 years, Division One sports, entrepreneurship, personal growth and development. And what I basically say is like, look, there's a lot out there. I'm not just going to talk about X with you. If you need support with, Y and Z and I could do that, like that's let's dive into it. So it becomes much more comprehensive. Because a lot of you guys come in, they're like, oh, I want to learn this in the sexual realm, right? Because that's an area that I have a lot of expertise in. But then we unpack a lot of stuff, and the issues that they have are totally different, right? There's psychological things that they need to work on, or they're physiological things that they've never really looked at and never addressed. And that was one of the biggest shifts of for me, which was like, okay, the sexual health piece is important, right? If there's dysfunction, if there's, whatever, that's sort of a dashboard warning light on your car. But then it's like, what's upstream? What's going on? And so I combine that with the years that I've been doing the clinical work on myself, the diagnostics, the labs, going through major autoimmune issues with mold and Lyme and heavy metals and toxicities and autoimmune issues, and realizing that, there's a significant amount of like things that we don't know, right? That can affect us as men, um, namely like hormones, right? They control everything, right? And they control our behavior, our thoughts, our actions. And so if those are out of whack, right, which is what's happening right now to men and to women, you gotta learn about it. You gotta dig in and get data, not just like I think you should do this because I said so. It's more like let's actually understand you, from a very deep level.
I love that. Yep. You start with the data, like you said, right? It's all diagnostics. It's not what you think or guessing. So,
Yeah.
so what does biological control actually mean, and why don't most men have it?
Because most men have never actually done blood work. And if they have, they've done like a traditional panel from a normal doctor. If they're on it, they've done maybe the function health or the superhuman, but those are really new, uh, you know.
Yep.
And if they're even more advanced than that, okay, sure, they've done more stuff, but that's a very small percentage of the population. So we go through life and we're like, oh, I'll try this diet, or this guy says this thing and that influencer says that thing, and I'll trust him. Dude, it's when you really think about it, why would you do that without actually testing whether it's right for you first? And we have the ability to do that now. You and I are different. We come from different backgrounds. I can't tell you what you should be eating, right?
Mhm.
You have a very different profile than I do, right? And we're both men, we're both around the same age, we're both active, we're both fit. But what might be appropriate for me is very different than what's appropriate for you, you know? And so I look at it. So you can biohack your way and cold plunge and sauna. Like you can do that every day for the rest of your life. Sure, it's great. But if you're eating the wrong food, your body is going to be consistently creating inflammation and stress. So it doesn't matter what you do on the outside if you don't actually work on some of the inner stuff. And it becomes really simple when you actually look at it. You're like, okay, your diet, it's the thing that you do 3 or 4 times a day, every single day, and that's going to change your epigenetic profile very drastically. And the second is your sleep. You know what I mean? It's like, are we getting sleep? Sleep is obviously, as we know through the biohacking community and Huberman and all these guys who study sleep, it's incredibly important. But most men don't track any of it, and we're starting to now, and I think it's a great place for people to sort of learn from the wearables, but also like let's get more testing done so that you don't try something and then have it affect you negatively just because you tried it. Like let's reduce the time for the cycle of trial and error with the data up front. That's my whole approach.
Yep. I love that. So walk me through what you actually find when you run labs on a man that comes to you and they want help, and what are some things that surprises them the most?
I mean, look, a lot of guys look at total testosterone, right? I look at free testosterone. I think free testosterone is much more important. You want free testosterone to be 2% of total testosterone. Most men don't understand that 98% of your testosterone is bound, right? And that means that it needs to be bound to go and be pushed into different areas and then needs to be converted into free testosterone. So most men have done like a very traditional panel with they don't measure their estrogen, they don't measure their PSA, they don't measure their progesterone. And so when you look at some of like the basic hormone panels that you can do, you realize that there's a lot more to look at. Cholesterol is really important and critical. Pregnenolone is the mother of all hormones. There's a cascade of cholesterol turns into pregnenolone, and pregnenolone turns into the DHEA, and then into testosterone and DHT. So there's just a lot more at stake than just like, okay, my total T is X. I mean, that's a basic. But then you get into gut permeability issues, right? You get into, am I digesting protein properly? And if you asked 9.9, 99% of men, if they know any of this stuff, like empirically, they'll all say no. They'll say, I have no idea. It's like, oh, I think my gut's working well, or whatever. But like, do you actually know? Well, let's test it, right? Like, what is your cortisol rhythm? Are you spiking in the afternoon? Like, are you popping in the morning? Like, where are we looking there? So there's just so many things that you can measure now. But you need someone who knows how to analyze it and to guide you, right? And it's not just about AI. AI is great, but like AI is never going to replace that real, like, how do you feel, Naeem, right? Like, what's going on with your body, right? Like, and let's really talk through it. So that's what I do with guys. But there's tons of questions, and most men have zero clue about most of the questions that I ask them.
That's amazing, man. So powerful. I just got my labs done 2 days ago here in Medellin.
Okay.
My free T was low. I had a lot of total T, and it
Yep.
was my free T was low because I had high SHBG, which is the
Sex
something
hormone binding.
globulin. Yeah. So it was like sucking. It was, I think it either doesn't allow the testosterone to be absorbed or something like that. But I found that out before in November. Then I just got tested again, and now it actually went up, which is good, right? But I'm bringing it up because I love that you brought those ones up. And yeah, like I didn't even know what that was a few months ago, right? And also pregnenolone. I actually just got that tested too. Yeah, this one I didn't get the results yet, but that was one I didn't know about until a few weeks ago also.
Because on a traditional lab that's done through insurance and doctors, they don't measure pregnenolone. They're not going to do that. It's like an extra added cost or whatever, and they're going to measure the bare minimum. But when you get into the functional realm, which is like the lens that I look at everything, you do everything. You do a
Yep.
full panel, and the panel is comprehensive because we want to know more about you, right? But
Mhm.
also, blood is just one of many, many things, right? And so stool, saliva, blood spotting, urine, those are going to give us way more information, right? If I told you, Naeem, like, hey, like, let's get your full biological snapshot. It's not just from a blood marker. It's not just your blood panel. There's a lot more going on in your body that we can measure. So that's what I focus on. It's interesting, like you look at the function health and they give you your biological age. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll be super honest with you, it's bullshit. You can't give someone a biological age based off of one blood panel that they do. It just doesn't work, right? It doesn't make logical sense. It's a marketing scheme, and I think it's lovely, but like, it doesn't make any sense to me, you know? And so you gotta test, and then you work on it, and then you test again, and it's for the rest of your life. That's what we do. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like if you really want to perform at that highest level, very few people do that, right? And you're connected to a lot of super high performing guys. Maybe some do, but like most don't, you
Yep.
know? Most
Yep,
don't.
it's so true. Most don't. Yeah, it definitely takes a discipline and setting up the systems and the habit, and
Uh,
also shifting the mindset out. Because I was like this before too, where it's like doing things based on feeling. I always felt good. I'm like, oh, I work out every day. I'm fit. I played basketball in college. I'm like, I'm good, right? But so shifting, training my mind to go to what you say, which I love, to just measure, test, do the diagnostics and do things based off of that data like a scientist, right? And then you keep iterating and learning from that.
exactly. Exactly.
It's so powerful, man. I love it. And it shows for you, man. It's like whenever I'm around you, again, you actually, you don't just talk this stuff, you actually walk the talk. And you could see the results in your your health, obviously, and your workouts. And also, I think I saw we're Whoop buddies too. And again,
Yes.
I know Whoop is only one. It's only testing a few biomarkers, right? But your biological age on that was super low, right? You're like
Yeah.
12
I
years
mean,
younger.
I wish 20, that'd be amazing. I'm going
No,
for that.
no, it was like 12, right, or something like that, or
Who is
10.
so it's 9 right now. It's 9 years younger.
That's amazing.
And
Mine's like 2.5.
yeah, but that's okay. But like it's you
Yeah,
just start someplace. But like I would say this, Whoop, it measures a lot. And
yeah.
it also allows you to put in your blood panel work into the Whoop, so
Oh,
that you
cool.
can track that over time. So Whoop, think about the biological age you get from a Whoop versus like your function health. Your Whoop is
Yeah,
measuring this every single day, 15 things that it's measuring or more, however many it is, right? Over time, that's giving you really, really comprehensive data, right? So everyone I work with, I'm like, you need to get a Whoop. I like better than an Oura ring. Just wear the Whoop, just be on it. And it doesn't need to be fatalistic. Oh, I got a 70% sleep, so I can't function the next day. It's more just like, okay, like let's look at trends over time. But we want the data. This is a great sensor. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I'm all into that.
Nice. I love that, man. So, what are some, when a guy, let's talk about, for example, like if a guy comes to you for, I like how you call it the erotic arts, for like sexual performance, same thing, right? You still start with testing and measuring instead of getting all the shiny objects, right? It's like, oh, how do I make love in the bedroom and things like that, which is cool too and important, but
Yeah.
is that where you start as well with the sexual arts as
Yeah,
well?
I mean, unless some guy's like hyper already advanced on the health stuff, which is obviously rare. Yeah, we start with that, but and then I also like we coach up on, it's not about how to do the moves. It's never
Yeah.
about that. It's about like, well, where are you at? Are you watching porn, right? Like, are you leaking your energy in your partnership? Are you holding the masculine container for your partner so that she still remains in the feminine? Do you know how to be present with her, right? Do you understand the art of going slow? So we work on all of that sort of stuff in addition to, the health. So it's health and it's like this like sexual health framework. It's the psychological piece, right? The behavioral piece, right? Where am I not showing up as a man in my life, right? And obviously sometimes it's complicated. You got kids, you got a wife, you got stress in your life and your job, you're traveling or whatever it is. Like there's stuff that's coming at you. You know what I mean? And so that's why the work that I do is really it's holistic and it's unique, right? Because I'm not just a talk therapist who's guiding you through whatever. Like I get into the deep shit. Like let's go into the deep end and like, resolve whatever needs to happen there over time. And create a safe space where a guy can be like, hey man, this is what's really going on with me. Because most men, I think, have a really tough time finding other guys that they can drop in with at that level. I'm not going to shame you. There's no guilt. It's like, yo, I've been there. I understand it. Let's like resolve it together, and like lift, each other up.
So true, man. I love that. Yeah. It is great to have somebody that has been there and also can hold the space for you, right, in the container to lift you up. And again, it's easy for people to say, I'm not going to judge you or shame you, but it's a lot of people still do subconsciously project their belief system on somebody else, which is the power of, again, just like coaching, just like lawyers, just like doctors, just like anything, there's quality
Yeah.
all the way down, right? Just like athletes, right? You play D1 baseball, right? So yeah, I love that, man. That's so cool. And I love that you attack it at three angles. You attack it from the genotype, right? You're working with the genes, the epigenetics, the phenotype, right? The physiological, the biomarkers and things like that. And the psychotype, right? I just made up a word, psychotype.
Yeah.
The psychological piece, right? Because again, it's able helping people again mentally and emotionally to also shift because all these things they're linked, right? It's not just one or the other. So that's really powerful, man. It's a really powerful triad that you're doing for people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cohesive experience, I would say.
Yeah,
And you can't just like do one in a silo because
yeah,
they're all kind of work together, right? And so it's like let's hit all of it, right? And like really level up the whole thing.
yep, absolutely. So, what are some common markers that are tanking performance that most doctors completely miss?
Um, So one is obviously the gut, right? It's gut permeability and zonulin. I think zonulin's a huge marker that people don't necessarily know a lot about. That's what actually
Yeah, what is that? I don't
it,
even know what that is.
it creates like we talk about leaky gut,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, what that means is like there's little cells essentially, and so if they're open, more stuff can fit through them, leaky
Yeah.
gut, but shouldn't be there, like food issues, and then you have food sensitivities, and then you have internal reactions and histamine, whatever. Zonulin is the stuff that opens that up. So if you have a high amounts of zonulin, you're going to have more space in between the cells that more stuff that shouldn't be there can fit through, essentially, right? So that's a big one.
It opens up space in the cell wall for things to go in.
Not through the cell wall, but in between cell A and cell B.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
that because most stuff is supposed to go through the cell, but if you open up the space, and when it goes through the cell, it goes through the normal process. But if it goes through the space in the cell, that's what the leaky gut, is. So that's something that is interesting to look at. Um, And then what else is another one that I find? I mean, again, the SHBG is a huge one. It is key, but like I would say cholesterol is another one that people miss. If your cholesterol is too low, you can't really produce sex hormones. If your cholesterol is too high, obviously that's bad too. But I think that we've misdiagnosed and people are getting on statins way too regularly. And then, your cholesterol DHEA ratio is also important. So I think that those are because those are all about that's the core crux of like your hormone structure and your creation of your sex hormones. And again, as men, we need those are the most important hormones that we need, right? Like testosterone isn't just for like, aggression, it's for high functioning across all aspects of your life. But we jump to doing like TRT and like all this other stuff, which is exogenous testosterone, which I think
Yeah.
is a shortcut. It's not an intelligent approach, and it's lazy. And it should be, you have to look at it much more closely. That's one of the big misses that we're doing in society right now. Because again, it's a money grab, man. All this stuff is marketing. It's a marketing, it's a money grab, and guys are like, I want a quick fix. And it's like you're missing the whole fucking point.
Yeah.
Because if you start giving yourself exogenous testosterone, your body stops producing it and you're on it for the rest of your life. At a certain point, you might need that when you're 60 years old, maybe, right? Like Joe Rogan does it and all those guys. But like not if you're 27 or 35 or 45, right? You should be able to work on that naturally, you know? So those are some big ones that I see.
Yep. I agree, man. People jump the gun too quick, and it is a money grab, unfortunately. And those are probably ones that again you wouldn't get at a regular panel if you go to your regular doctor,
Yeah. Well, and
right?
also because you can measure it through your saliva, right? The
Mhm.
cortisol rhythm,
Okay.
and you can measure some of the other ones through, urine and metabolites. So like
Yep.
hormones can be measured through blood, but also better through urine, and then sometimes through saliva. So like there's just other things that need to be
Yeah.
checked different ways, right? Because someone's like, oh, I do blood work. Well, blood work is again 1/5, I would say, of the full spectrum. Like in my, Ever Vital Standard program, we do a five different things: blood,
Mm,
stool, urine, saliva, blood spot. Yeah, so we do that plus a big blood work panel.
yep.
But most people don't do that. They're like, huh?
Yep. I haven't done.
So
I've done urine. I haven't done stool yet. I got to do. I had a parasite in Africa, so
yeah,
my one of my buddies is a longevity guy. And he's like, you got to get your stool checked.
yeah.
What's blood spot?
Blood spot is just not, you don't have to go get it drawn from your arm. It's just from your finger. It's like a finger
Oh.
prick,
But why would
essentially.
you? What's isn't blood work all
Oh, I
that
mean,
already?
sometimes it's just easier to do that as
Oh, okay.
opposed
Yeah, yeah.
to going and getting an IV, getting it from
Yep.
Quest or LabCorp. You can do it at home, is
Yep.
what
Cool.
you can
Yeah,
measure.
it's like a little diabetes pinch. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Cool. So, how's your approach different from just going to a TRT clinic?
Oh, I mean, oh, very. TRT clinic essentially just gives you testosterone. They measure your testosterone, they measure your free testosterone, they put you on either a cream or a gel or a shot. I have an incredibly, I mean, my approach is like, I'm not going to do any of that, right? And I can't necessarily do that because I don't run a TRT clinic. I could recommend someone out to it, but we do intake, we do 5 different panels, we get all of your stuff at the same time. We look at it, we analyze it. We use AI to analyze it through the deep functional lens, but then there's obviously my experience of working with that sort of stuff. And then we coach up certain areas and we coach down certain areas, right? Because you learn a lot more when you have all of it at one time, you know? So you're doing all your labs and you do this 1 month, and then 3 months you do that, and then 4 months you do that. Well, that's not really a snapshot. That's kind of like they're markers and it's good to know. But what I say is I want to get everything at once. And then we coach you and we optimize for what's going on over that time, the next, 1 months 1 through 3, and then we'll do it. We'll test again in month 4, right? And so same test. I want to see what's happened, what's changed, what shifted. So it's a program for guys that are serious
Yep.
about their health. I want men who are like, yeah, let's fucking do this and let's do it the right way. But I'm not just like, oh, it's not about supplementation. And yeah, sure, we can do peptides, of course. But again, those aren't going to be helpful if you're not eating the right foods and you're not sleeping well. You know what I mean? Like, so that's all sort of like the fun, sexy stuff that everyone likes to talk about. But I really focus on data, and then I focus on diet, and I focus on sleep. Those are the
Mhm.
two most critical things.
Yep. So good, man. And you haven't even mentioned working out yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's incredibly important. Guys like Peter Attia talk about how,
Yeah.
exercise is a thing. And exercise is really important. But again, you can exercise all day long. And if you're eating food that's giving you inflammation inside, it might take 10 years for you to have an actual physiological issue. But
Mhm.
what we're trying to do is catch stuff really early, you know? And if your sleep is poor, you're not going to be able to recover properly. You're not. I have a really interesting story. So 6 months, I was in a very specific place. I told you I was with my mom before she passed, and I
Mhm.
had a very regimented approach. I said I'm going to sleep really well. I'm going to go to the gym in the morning. I'm going to eat a very particular diet, and it was very consistent. I didn't have a lot of variables in my life. Right, 6 months. My biological age went from 42 to 32.7, I want to say. Okay, in that time period. I took one trip to California, long flight, 7 hours, sleeping in Airbnbs, not my particular environment, right? Like things were off. And then I was here for 2 weeks, and my biological age has already gone up to 31 something or whatever. And the biological age has increased the speed of it, right? We want it to slow, but it's
Yeah.
increased from 2 weeks of like not awesome sleep.
Yep.
It's wild. And you're like, okay, this is real data. This is really something I can understand? And obviously, when you're in a place that's your environment, that's dialed in and it's cold and, you go to bed at a certain time and you're not eating, before bed, you can control it. But a life throws a lot of curveballs at you. You can't just like be in your cave all day long?
Yep.
But it's amazing. The sleep factor is critical. And so I really focus on people with that. Like, let's get that dialed.
Yeah. What's a tip you have for people about sleep? I had the scientific director of Whoop on the podcast a couple years ago, Kristen
Amazing.
Holmes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
she's
asked her, yeah, she's awesome. She's amazing. She's still with them, and it was a great podcast episode. But I'm like, hey, what's like the what should you focus on with sleep? And she's like, the most important thing is sleep, bedtime, wake time consistency.
yep, yep. So I think that that's true. And from what I've seen from my own data, the consistency is the thing that throws off, the numbers.
Yeah,
Um, but I also think that, you know, the amount of restorative is key. You got to
yep,
have at least 4 hours of restorative, and
yeah,
that's deep plus REM. And I've noticed that when I have that, I'm in a better shape. But again, it's 9:30 to 10, number of hours before 12 o'clock. I think that you can go to sleep is significant. It counts as like almost double. Um, but yeah, that's the thing that I've noticed.
What was that thing? Number of hours before? What'd you say about
Yeah,
that?
so if you go to bed, I mean, if you sleep from like midnight to 8 versus
Hmm.
10 to 6, right? It's 8 hours. But I believe that there's some data and science around the number of hours that you go to sleep before midnight counts much. Basically, it's much
Yeah,
better for your scores
yep.
because sleeping from 10 to 12 has better benefits than, from 12 to 2, like the first hours of your sleep. So there's something to be said for that as well, which is like, can we go to bed, as early as possible? And then everything becomes like, well, when do you stop eating, right? And when do you stop drinking? So everything kind of becomes a bit more, now you're at the 7 o'clock realm instead of like eating at 9:30 or 10. And you're in Medellin right now, and like culture is late there, so people are out late, and
Yeah. The biggest thing that's been pretty much every time if I stop eating, that's the second thing, right? So I'm always like, all right, how can I be as consistent as possible with my sleep? And then to reverse engineer that, I try to stop eating. Another thing I heard, which is really good and it definitely helps me, stop eating 3, 4 hours before bedtime so you can digest even more if you can, right? But whenever I do that, it's like I get green recovery on my Whoop and my sleep is great. I love what you said about you raised the standard for me because I used to think it was 3 hours of restorative. I'm going to start trying to go for 4 and I'm going to see what that does for me. How the
yeah.
hell do you get 4? That's amazing. I get like
I mean,
3
look,
on a good night. I get 3. If it's like last night, I got 2.5. I just checked my phone.
yeah. I mean, so glycine is really helpful. Glycine powder. So I
Mhm.
take glycine, magnesium glycinate, and I take a peptide, a natural peptide from Make Wellness called Restored, and that has apigenin and L-theanine and GABA in it. And so that's my pre sort of sleep stack. And what I've noticed is that the glycine helps you drop deeper into REM and deep sleep. And then obviously your environment, right? You got to sleep cold. Like if you have a cold sleeping, if you have an eight sleep or if you have a chili pad, blackout blinds, earplugs, eye mask. It's funny. Like when you go to sleep well, like properly to really maximize your sleep, like there's nothing sexy about it. You've got like the mouth tape on, you've got the eye mask on, you've got the earplugs, you've got like, whatever you're wearing to bed. Like that's not a sexy atmosphere to sleep in. You got your partner, they might sleep hot versus cold. Like, so
Yeah.
tell people, I was like, look, in an optimal world, we're sleeping alone.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone can do that, and obviously some people won't want to do that, but like that is the best way to get the best sleep.
Yeah.
I'm guarantee you that Brian Johnson does not sleep with anyone in his bed, maybe for
Yeah.
other reasons as well. Because you don't want to be bothered in someone else's energy in someone else's space because that's how critical it is, right?
Yeah.
So I tell people like if you, it's called the business of sleep. Like if you want to be the highest functioning human possible, you have to get amazing sleep. It's going to make you a better father, better husband, better lover, better, workout guy. Like you'll have more energy, you'll have better recovery, but it all stems from that.
Yep. I agree. The one thing I do wonder though, and it's hard to maybe, I don't, maybe you probably could get the data where there is value, and I'm sure you agree with this, right? And also for longevity and health to be with your partner intimately and like snuggle and cuddle and things like that too, maybe, right? So that's where I know
Yeah.
Josephina would definitely be saying that. But
No, it's
uh,
critical, right? Human
yeah,
touch,
yeah,
and like intimacy and connection and spooning and, skin to skin contact. And, that is hyper important. And so, it's funny, like in my partnerships and relationships, like I'm like, look, I cuddle and I do all the things, but like when it's time to go to bed, I'm in my zone and I'm not going to I don't want your body on me. I don't want you trying to get up all in my space. I just won't have a
mm,
good night's sleep and I'm going to be cranky in the morning and then that's a cascade because you look at
yep,
sleep debt and it accumulates. You can't just wipe it away with one sleep. It takes time, right, to get it back. So I say, look, I cuddle, I do all the things, the sexy stuff. I mean, I'm a morning and an afternoon sex guy. I don't really like having sex at night. Um, Personally because I just have more energy and more like vitality and
yeah,
more
me too.
just
I don't like it at night.
afternoon delight.
I'm done at the end of the day. I like it in the morning,
Yeah,
but
like
I'm not. Yeah,
it's the worst time for people to have sex. The men
yeah,
don't have a lot of energy and libido is down. Like they don't have a lot, and everyone's kind of tired.
yep,
You're tired. Like why are we optimizing for that? Like how about you do it in the morning?
yeah.
You know,
It's a great way to
um,
start the day, man. Prime your day with some love and sexual energy.
exactly. Right? Like
Yeah,
what's better than that?
yep. Shout out to Josephina. Josephina Jackson's trying to get us to sleep in different beds, but I'm not going to do that. I do agree with the chili pad too, though. That's really important, right? Just having the temperature control. That makes a big difference as well.
It's so easy and it's not as expensive as the eight sleep. It's not its own mattress. It's just something that goes over the mattress and you can do both sides. You can get a
Yeah.
king size or queen size and do both sides.
Yep.
It's phenomenal. And it also does the thing where like it wakes you up by warming the bed to your wake time. So if you're like, hey, I want to
Yeah.
go, it'll start warming up the bed at 5:30 and then it helps you get up faster because the warmth will help you get up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's great. We
the
want to get one
technology
of
out there
those.
is so great right now.
The what?
The technology we have out
Oh
there is
my
so
God.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you other I don't we don't have one. We want to get one actually, but it gives you other biometric data too, right? It like measures
Yeah.
your.
The eight sleep gives the most.
Mhm.
The a chili pad does some, but then also, if you're wearing the Whoop, then I just use the chili pad more for the utility of like just the temperature increase. I don't necessarily look at the data. Also because like I don't really know how I would measure the data if you don't
Yep.
have. I'm sure there's some sort of technology around it, but I don't know.
Yep. Dude, the one thing that's interesting, and again, it's just the human mind. Same with like the money grab for getting people to do TRT and like other things before they dial in the fundamentals. But also the I don't like it when people shame people on like the biohacking. Oh, I got my face mask, my mouth tape, and this. Like, yes, I get there's an extreme to that too, where it's like you're over optimizing.
Mhm.
But also, it's kind of like a graph, right? Like the four quadrants. So like there's an extreme, there's like this quadrant over here where you're just like, yeah, you're definitely over optimizing, you're doing it backwards. But then there's the other part of the quadrant where it's actually like, you know what you're fucking doing, and you're just looking for like the extra edge to really just feel better and be healthier
Yeah.
and everything, right? So
Yeah.
when you said like, I got the face mask, I got earplugs are amazing. Just getting the ear out, the room is super dark, and
Yeah.
then my, I used to have nose tape, but then that was making my nose sticky, and sometimes it would give a little chafing on the bridge. I
Got it.
discovered my friend Tim from San Francisco. He told me about those little nose things you can put inside your nose, the plastic. They feel a little weird in the beginning, but my nose breathing is so much better now, and it's just
Good.
easy to slip them in and out. And then the last thing I do, which Josephina makes me do because I snore, is she covers my mouth with tape, which is great though because mouth breathing is bad, right? Like, and whenever
Very,
I
yeah.
just focus just on the nose at night, it's so much better. My sleep the whole night.
Yeah, no, the mouth tape is great. It's a little bit more difficult for guys like me with beards and
Yeah.
mustaches. So you got to find tape that like will really stick onto it. But
Yep.
yeah, it's important. And then again, test it. What have the wearable, do it for a week. What happens to your resting heart rate? What happens to your oxygen, rate? What happens to your respiratory rate? Like look at the data and say like, okay, interesting. Try it for 2 weeks. Try it for a month. You know. But if you have something that can track it, that's really critical.
Yep. Absolutely, man. I agree. So you coach on behavior and biology. So where does one end and the other one begin?
Great question. I think, look, everyone comes into the arena with different things that they're good at, right? Some people are super focused on the physiological piece and whatnot, but like they haven't figured out the discipline in the other areas. And really, it's just about talking and connecting with a guy and figuring out like where is he at. They
Mhm.
go hand in hand, right? It's difficult to be hyper diligent on the biological side of it when if you don't have the discipline gene, right? If you don't have the attitude and the approach, there. If you're leaking your energy or you have addiction issues and, to porn and things like that. So they really go hand in hand. And it's just an assessment of like where someone's at, where they're really skilled, where they need some support, and then we blend the two together.
Yep. Very cool.
Because, biology, you talk about hormones, right? Hormones basically direct our lives, and we don't necessarily understand how impactful they are, but they think about what's happening in the world right now with testosterone levels dropping and fake estrogen being put in our bodies, right, for men, and men don't
Yeah.
need more estrogen. But what happens when you lower testosterone and you cap its ability, to be created with these phenoestrogens and xenoestrogens and whatnot, um, you 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 create an atmosphere where a man's body is not operating like a man. It's operating with more female hormones. Well, what does that do to your thought process, to your behavior, to your actions? It's a sliding scale. So if our testosterone levels drop, we're going to act, think, behave, emote, etc., like a man that does not have a lot of that
Mhm.
hormone in him. And he's going to be more feminine in the way that he approaches life because the estrogen is going up and the testosterone is going down, which is the exact opposite of where we want it to be. We want the estrogen to go down and the testosterone to go up. So hormones, which are the biology, indicate like they direct behavior.
Yep.
So you know what I mean? It's one of those things. Like if someone's behavior is like out of whack or out of alignment and not operating from the masculine pole, well, let's look at your biology. Where do your numbers sit? So that's the way that they kind of can go together.
Yep.
But they're not, but your behavior is completely, yeah, sure, the way you grew up, nature, but like, the nurture piece, like if your hormones are saying feminine, how are you going to act?
Yep.
You can't like biohack your way out of that. It just doesn't work, It's like, oh, your testosterone's super low and you have a ton of estrogen in your body that's stored in fat. How are you going to show up in the world? Probably not that masculine and probably like not directive and not clear and not setting containers, right? Like, all this stuff from working with Josephina. Like,
Yep.
that's a masculine container, but if your testosterone's super low, you will not be able to do it, you know?
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. It's to me the metaphor that came to mind is maybe two oars in a boat, maybe like
yeah.
the biological and the
Yeah.
psychological. Yeah.
Mhm. Like that.
Nice. And you talk about presence. What does that mean to you biologically and behaviorally?
Um, I think a lot of times men can be performative in bed
Yeah.
because they're trying to be something that they've seen on videos and in porn and movies and whatnot. And they don't realize that women perceive it, they feel it, they get the ick by it, they're grossed out by it. And so when I talk to guys, I'm like, look, man, like this is not about you trying to do all these moves. This is about you creating a space where you can connect with your partner,
Hmm.
right? Where there's trust, there's vulnerability, there's the ability to go deeper, right? And when a man's in a relationship, like that ability to go deep in that space, that takes a lot of courage. Because when a man really goes deep with a partner, he is very vulnerable, and that's not a place where a lot of men are comfortable being.
Hmm.
So that's a huge, component of it. And as it relates to the biology piece, like again, we want everything working in unison and working in sync. So if you're again going back to the other analogy, like if your hormones are not tuned up to the way that they should be, it's going to be more difficult for you to emote and behave and act in that masculine way where you are creating that container and you're comfortable in the space of vulnerability and depth and presence, you know?
Absolutely. Yep. Spot on, man. Um, it's wild, right? It's like, to me, that's the psychological shift. When I think it's just a natural rite of passage as a man or a woman on the other side, right? Where it's like, I used to think I had to perform, 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 right? And it's wild where you realize if you work with people like yourself, if people go for coaching, right? It's like, I don't know any other way around it, man. Like, I've had so many coaches, masterminds, events. Like, you gotta. It's like we just we pass on the wisdom, right? Like, you learn from so many masters, I learn from so many
Yeah.
masters, and then we get to pass that on. But and our masters learn from so many masters too, right? Just the cycle of life. But once you learn that, for me at least, right, I was like, oh wow, this is like easier now to like please my woman, right? And like have more amazing sex and more amazing connection, more amazing partnership, more deeper connection. And it's like so much more fulfilling because the physiological piece is great. Obviously, it feels great, the sexual ecstasy, but that's surface level like dopamine, right? The piece that really layers it in, like goes deep with it, is like that deep connection with the feminine and learning how to relate to that and like being present for it and being able to go deep with that. So I think that's really amazing that you teach men to do that, right? And again, it's like it's actually less work than people are doing right now, right?
Yeah, it's way easier when you're like, oh, I can just like be myself and like
Yeah.
grounded. It's like masculine presence because that's what the woman who you're with, that's what she's responding to.
Hmm.
Responding to who is this man in front of me, right? Is he grounded? Is he present? Is he comfortable in his own skin? Is he, this? Yeah. And yes, you do want to be able to work properly and all your functionality be good, but like she's into that. She's not into like, can he lift me up and do me this? That's not what women ask. That's not what they're looking for. That's not what they're yearning for. They're yearning for something much deeper. So totally in alignment on that.
Yep, I agree. As you were saying that, it kind of comes to similar parallel with like the peptides and all the extra stuff. That stuff, for sure, it's great to have like moves, but that's like the little layer on top after you have the trunk of it all, right? Like, and if you have the trunk, then all that stuff is cool, but it's not like it's people lead. They think that's like the most important stuff. Yeah,
Like the foundation versus the flare.
yeah, yeah,
Foundation
exactly.
versus flare. So like all the stuff that we do on the biology side, the inner stuff, right? Also the biology, but the inner work, that's the foundation. And then the flare is like, yeah, you got the peptides, you got this, you got the treatments, and then you got like, okay, you can do the moves and you can do that. But like but like most guys don't have the foundation, right? So
Yeah,
that's what we focus on is let's get the foundation, and the other stuff is all the nice to have, you know?
yep,
It's not the must have.
yep, absolutely. You do have some amazing hip opener moves, bro. I gotta get my hip. My hips are so inflexible. I'm like, damn, how does he do that? He's like a fucking ninja.
Well, that part of it's the martial arts background, but like part of it is like I do it every day. I go to the gym,
Yeah,
I do hip openers, and people are looking at me and they're like, "What is this guy doing?" And it looks like I'm like, humping the ground, but like
yeah,
I want to have flexible hips. It's important for me,
yeah.
So it's just my thing.
That's great. You do so every when you go to the gym, you do some hip stuff each time at the
Yeah,
gym. Yeah.
I have a 12 to 14 minute opening dynamic movement routine that basically opens up every single joint in the body. Start with the ankles, go to the knees, go to the hips, and then shoulders, elbows, wrists, neck. I open
Oh,
up the whole body before I work out, and people again, that's just what I do, and that makes my body feel good, and it makes like I'm ready, like the synapses are firing,
ah,
right? But hips are super important for that, especially on a leg day, you know.
that's great, man. I got to get on that. I'm going to start doing that for sure.
I'll send you the video. You can just then you can start doing it.
That'd be amazing, dude. Yeah, thank you. So, to a couple more questions before we wrap things up, but what does a man who has full biological and psychological control actually look like in his daily life?
Wow. Um, he is fully aware of like what's going on through testing and diagnostics, right? And that's, a very small percentage of guys. And they're basically working on that or being coached with by somebody else on diet, nutrition, supplementation, things like that. So like it's just having the awareness and the knowledge and doing the work on it, right? On
Yep.
the psychological side, look, it's someone who's done the work on themselves. Have they gone through personal growth experiences? Have they done some of the shadow work? Do they know how they show up in the world? Do they know what triggers them? Like, are they working on this stuff? Are they in couples therapy or group therapy? Are they doing their own therapy? Is it somatic therapy or not? I think it's just people that are doing the work, right? Our body is a temple. We have to do the work on the body through diet, sleep, and exercise. And on the other side of it, like you got to get the mind right and you got to get the soul and the mind connected, right? We have to do the emotional work. Those two things, they shouldn't be lopsided. You should be
Yeah.
doing the work on both, and that's my whole approach is like you don't want to have one without the other. Because
Yep.
it would be lopsided, right? And that's not, we don't want that. We want balance and
Yeah.
harmony.
Yep. It's like having a good diet and have a good workout routine.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what he looks like, Jackson? He looks like that lion behind you on the wall.
Yeah, right.
That guy.
Exactly.
So, for people, kind of explain a little more about your Ever Vital program and how it works for a second as well for
Yeah.
people listening.
Absolutely. So the EverValid program, I split up into two different programs. One is the standard and one's the elite. The elite has more testing than the standard does, but essentially we do an intake. I understand a little bit more about you, right? We get the 5 tests done, stool and urine and saliva and blood spot, and then a full blood panel. We analyze that information and then we coach up on certain things, and we coach down on certain things. Um, I also work with people over a 6-month period, and that's the transformation period. So it's good to get the data, but the men who really want to work, we do coaching, and that's twice a month. We do calls, we get all the data wrapped in the AI, and then I work with them on different things. We're on wearables, we're sharing a lot of information with each other, and so it's a very high touch experience. And it's for guys that are can make the investment, guys that are making 20K a month or more, I would say, is the minimum, and who really want someone who has a full spectrum ability to coach, not just on the diagnostics, but on the other things that we need to get into. So on our calls, we go through all of it, right? If they need help on the psychological piece on something or the intimacy piece, we dive into that. And we also layer it with, the diagnostics piece on their health. So that's essentially how, that works. There's 2 levels of testing, base, standard and elite, and then there's the transformation program that you can get after you've done one of those two. The elite is just more testing. It's genetics, it's structural MRI composition. We get a bigger snapshot, so to speak, of what's going on with you.
I love that, man. That sounds amazing. That's awesome. So, for people that actually want to, well, everybody should be doing this. So, if you could afford it, you should definitely reach out to Jackson because ever since I started doing my labs too, it's been a game changer. Because again, I'm actually just more precise and less wasting money too on things I don't need to even waste money on. Where it's like, oh, I need boron. Who thought I need boron? And I'm
Yep.
like, that's going to make
Super
all the
important
difference.
for sperm health. Yep.
Yeah, there you
Boron,
go.
selenium, like the whole deal. But you
Yeah.
just said a really important thing. It's about not wasting time and not wasting money, right? I can't
Hmm.
tell you how many guys get the function health test and then they're
Yeah.
like, call me like, hey, bro, like, how do I analyze this? Like, well, and so I'm like, okay, like the real thing is like it's the human understanding and working with someone who gets you, right? And
Mhm.
AI, I don't think everyone's ever going to be able to really replace that. Maybe one day down the road, but like I just don't think it's there. And so that's what it is that I do. We're like, let's save time. We're going to put an investment up front, and we're going to have a continual investment, but we're going to save you trial and error and potentially doing something, taking a supplement that's going to put you in a worse state, right? It's going to get you inflamed, right? Let's know everything first, right? Test, don't guess. That's the whole point. And a lot of these guys that are big in the biohacking space or whatever, they're really strong marketers and they have really loud voices and they're like, you should eat this way. I mean, look at Paul Saladino with the carnivore diet. He was like, carnivore, carnivore, carnivore. And then he did his testing and he was like, oh shit, I got to backpedal on that, right? And he's a doctor, you know?
Yeah,
So you just, every biochemical individuality is literally the most important thing for people to understand is that every body is different. One man's food is another man's poison. So I don't care all the other sexy stuff that you're doing. I want to get to the basics, right? I
yeah.
want to understand what's in you and I want to test it. And then I want to test it again and I want to test it again. And you should really be doing it your entire life. Just like you go to therapy, you got to work on the health side of things too. Because that's your asset. You talk about guys that are, running businesses and successful. Your body is your asset. Are you investing in your asset? How are you investing in your asset? Right? It's really important because that's going to enable you to do so much more in your life. And it's not just about business, it's about family and longevity and health span. So
Mhm.
it's an incredibly important asset that I think a lot of people they do a lot of guessing as opposed to measuring.
I agree, man. 100%. Totally. Where do people go to contact you and find you and reach out and learn more?
Yeah, so my socials are at Get Natural Jackson, and then there's a link in the bio, which takes them to the EverVital program. So they'll be able to check it there. And evervital.health is another site that we have, but they're all go to that same site, and they can look at it, check it out, and understand the program. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, we'll put that all in the show notes so people can.
and jacksonhightower.com, and they're all point to the same place.
Amazing. Cool, man. Dude, this was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I have questions for you. I'm excited. I'm excited to
We'll
do
get you
your.
on the EverVital program, man.
Yeah, I might have to do that too. I'm excited for the joint opening exercises too before I start going doing my workouts.
Yeah.
But what's your departing final message for the audience?
Um, Test, don't guess. And just because someone says something to you on the internet doesn't mean it's right for you,
Mm,
including myself.
boom. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you, Naeem. Appreciate it.